The stars twinkled coldly in the black void as Earth's orbital defense station Alpha rotated in its silent watch. Inside the monitoring room, Lieutenant Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. Another quiet night shift nearly over. His screen suddenly flashed red, jolting him upright. "Sir, multiple objects appearing at the edge of our system," he called to Captain Wilson. Wilson rushed over, his coffee forgotten. "How many?" "Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. They're massive." The objects had appeared suddenly beyond Neptune's orbit. They moved slowly, almost drifting. Earth's governments were notified immediately. Within hours, every telescope on and off planet pointed toward the mysterious fleet. "They're not responding to any communication attempts," reported Communications Officer Patel 3 days later during the emergency United Space Coalition meeting. Representatives from every spacefaring nation sat around the table, faces grim with concern. Commander Ellis, head of the Coalition's defense forces, stood before the projected images. "Whatever they are, they're not accelerating or changing course. Current trajectory will bring them into Mars orbit in approximately 2 months." "Are they a threat?" asked the Chinese representative. "Unknown," Ellis replied, "but we need to find out. I'm proposing an intercept mission." 7 days later, 3 of Earth's fastest ships, the American Intrepid, the Chinese Dragon Star, and the European Galileo, approached the mysterious fleet. Up close, the alien vessels were even more impressive. Massive structures of blue-silver metal with unusual organic-looking designs. "No detectable weapon systems powered up," reported Intrepid's tactical officer. Commander Ellis, leading the mission from Intrepid, made his decision. "Prepare boarding teams. Full environmental suits and weapons ready but not drawn. We go in peaceful but cautious." The first team entered the largest vessel through what appeared to be a docking bay. Inside, emergency lights cast an eerie blue glow through silent corridors. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, the air unbreathable according to their instruments. "Place is powered down but not dead," noted technical specialist Rivera, checking readings on her tablet. "There's minimal power running through some systems." Moving deeper into the ship, they found the first aliens. Transparent pods lined a massive chamber, each containing a figure. The aliens were taller than humans, with 4 arms and smooth, pale skin that seemed to have a subtle iridescent quality. Their faces were almost triangular, with large, now closed eyes. "They're in some kind of stasis," Dr. Keller said, examining the nearest pod. "Life signs are stable but minimal. I think they're hibernating." The team continued exploring, finding more stasis chambers containing thousands of aliens. They also discovered what appeared to be the ship's bridge and engine rooms. Everything was in standby mode, running on minimal emergency power. In what seemed to be the main computer core, Rivera made a breakthrough. "Commander, I've accessed some kind of log. It's obviously not in English, but the timestamps and patterns suggest it's recording the ship's history." The team collected as much data as they could before returning to Intrepid. Similar reports came in from teams that had boarded other vessels in the fleet. Back on Earth, the findings caused both excitement and apprehension. The fleet posed no immediate threat. It was effectively dead in space, but the technology was far beyond human capabilities. "Their power cores are completely drained," explained Chief Engineer Volkov during the briefing. "Based on the emergency systems still running and the stasis pods, I believe they suffered some catastrophic power failure, and this was their last resort survival protocol." Commander Ellis looked at the gathered world leaders on the screen. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a decision to make. Do we attempt to help these beings? And if so, how do we even begin to understand their technology?" After heated debate, humanity made its choice. Operation Lifeline began the next day. Earth's first mission, to rescue an alien civilization. 3 weeks after the discovery of the alien fleet, Earth's brightest minds gathered at the newly established First Contact Center in Geneva. Scientists, engineers, and linguists worked around the clock, studying the data collected from the alien vessels. Dr. Reed, a linguistics professor known for creating translation algorithms for obscure Earth languages, stared at her screen with bloodshot eyes. She had been analyzing patterns in the alien computer logs for days without a break. "There's structure here," she muttered to herself. "It's mathematical at its core, like all languages." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Reed was half asleep when she noticed that certain symbol clusters appeared in relation to specific ship functions. Working with the engineering team, she connected these symbols to parts of the ship they had identified. "It's working," she exclaimed as the first simple translations appeared on her screen. Power, life support, navigation. These are basic command words. Within days, Reed's team developed a rudimentary translation program. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to begin deciphering the alien logs. "They call themselves the Varan," she announced at the daily briefing. "According to their logs, they're explorers from a star system about 60 light-years away." Commander Ellis leaned forward. "Why are they here? What happened to them?" Reed scrolled through her notes. Their logs describe an encounter with something they call the void current, possibly some kind of energy-draining space phenomenon we haven't discovered yet. It drained their main power systems completely. They activated emergency protocols and entered stasis, hoping to drift to a star system where they might be rescued. "By their own people?" asked one of the military advisors. "No," Reed replied. "The logs indicate they didn't expect to find their own kind. They were just hoping to find any intelligent life that might help them. They've been drifting for almost 200 years. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. A spacefaring civilization had placed their last hope on finding help among the stars, never knowing if they would succeed. Working with the translation program, the engineering teams made faster progress understanding the Varan technology. They discovered that the stasis chambers could be safely deactivated one by one. The decision was made to wake the Varan leader. The first awakening was broadcast globally. People around the world watched as the stasis pod slowly opened in a specially prepared chamber aboard the Intrepid. The Varan inside, taller than any human with 4 slender arms and opalescent skin, opened its large almond-shaped eyes. They were a striking violet color with no visible pupils. Dr. Reed's voice came through a speaker, carefully pronouncing Varan words from the translation program. The alien responded, its voice melodic and flowing. Through painstaking back-and-forth communication, supplemented by images and diagrams, they learned the Varan leader's name was Toril, captain of the lid ship. Toril was shocked to discover humans had developed space travel. "When we entered stasis," Toril explained through the translator, "our instruments showed your world had primitive technology. We expected to drift for thousands more years before finding help." Over the next few days, more Varan were awakened, engineers and scientists who could help explain their technology. The cultural exchange accelerated as both species found common ground through science. The Varan were peaceful explorers who had never encountered hostile alien life until recently. They shared star charts showing hundreds of worlds they had visited, most without intelligent life. A breakthrough in communication came when Toril's engineer, Mev, suggested linking their computer systems directly to improve the translation. Within hours, conversation became much easier. "We are in your debt," Toril told Commander Ellis through the improved translator. "Our people have always believed that intelligence flourishes throughout the universe. Now we have proof. You have saved us when we had almost lost hope." Ellis nodded. "We're just getting started. Now we need to figure out how to get your ships running again." Toril's expression, while alien, somehow conveyed gratitude. "Together, we will find a way." The massive Varan mothership hung silently against the stars. Earth's smaller vessels docked alongside it like remoras on a whale. Inside, the once dark corridors now hummed with activity as human engineers worked alongside the awakened Varan. Engineer Porter wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the complex machinery before him. The Varan power core was unlike anything humans had ever created. a spherical chamber filled with swirling particles that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. "It's beautiful," he said to Mev, the Varen chief engineer working beside him. Mev's 4 hands moved gracefully across a control panel. "The core uses what you might call exotic matter, particles that exist partly in our dimension and partly in another. The void current we encountered somehow disrupted the balance, causing the particles to shift completely into the other dimension." Porter frowned. "We don't have technology to create or manipulate exotic matter. We barely understand it theoretically." The engineering challenges seemed insurmountable at first. Earth had nothing comparable to the Varen power technology. After weeks of study and failed attempts, the human Varen engineering team gathered for an emergency meeting aboard the International Space Station. "We can't replicate their power source," admitted Director Hoffman of the Earth Science Coalition. "Even with their instructions, we lack the fundamental materials and knowledge." The room fell silent. Captain Torrell's large violet eyes surveyed the discouraged humans. "Perhaps we are approaching this incorrectly. Instead of trying to restore our technology exactly, could we adapt your technology as a temporary solution?" Porter straightened in his chair. "What if we don't need exotic matter? What if we could jumpstart your systems with our own power sources?" That insight sparked a new direction. While Earth couldn't match the elegant efficiency of Varen technology, humans excelled at improvisation. Porter's team began designing massive fusion reactors that could temporarily power the smaller Varen ships. "It's like trying to power a quantum computer with a steam engine," Porter explained to Commander Ellis. "Inefficient and crude, but theoretically possible." Working day and night, the joint team constructed the first prototype reactor. The test day arrived with both species watching anxiously. Porter stood before the makeshift control panel, his finger hovering over the activation switch. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, then pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum that gradually increased in pitch, the Varen scout ship systems came online. Lights flickered across its hull, and the control panels inside glowed with alien script. A cheer erupted from the humans while the Varen made a musical trilling sound that translated as their expression of joy. "It's working," Porter exclaimed, checking the readings. "Power at 30% of normal capacity. Not great, but enough for basic systems and to keep more of your people out of stasis." The success, while limited, changed everything. With one ship partially powered, more Varen engineers could be safely awakened. They'd brought fresh insights, helping humans better understand their technology. Torrell, watching the humans work tirelessly alongside his people, made a decision. He gathered the Varen Council and announced, "These humans have proven themselves worthy allies. The ancient protocols no longer apply. We will share our knowledge freely." The Varen began teaching humans about technologies they had planned to keep secret: advanced materials, more efficient energy systems, and the principles behind their faster-than-light communications. With this new knowledge, Porter's team designed improved reactors. 2 weeks later, they successfully powered up a medium-sized Varen vessel to 60% capacity. At this rate, Porter told Commander Ellis during the daily briefing, "We could have half their fleet operational within 3 months. Not at full capacity, but enough to maintain life support for all their people." Ellis nodded, studying the progress reports. "Good work, but we still need a permanent solution. Our reactors are stopgaps at best." Porter smiled, his exhausted face brightening. "Actually, sir, one of the Varen scientists and I have been discussing a theory. With what they've taught us about particle physics, we might be able to synthesize a small amount of their exotic matter. It's a long shot, but—" "Make it happen," Ellis said firmly. "If anyone can do it, it's this team." As humans and Varen continued working side by side, something unprecedented was happening. 2 species from different stars, finding common purpose among the void. The United Nations Security Council chamber buzzed with angry voices. On the large screen at the front of the room, footage showed Varen engineers instructing humans on the installation of a new communications array aboard their mothership. "This is moving too fast," said the Russian representative, pounding his fist on the table. "We are giving these aliens free access to our planet, our technology, and our resources without proper security measures." Commander Ellis stood firm at the podium. "The Varen have shared more technology with us in 2 months than we would have developed in 50 years. Their medical knowledge alone has already led to treatments for 3 previously incurable diseases. And what if their intentions aren't peaceful?" questioned the American representative. "What if this stranded fleet story is just that? A story?" Ellis displayed images of the Varen ship's damaged systems. "Our scientists have verified their account. The damage is real. The power drain occurred exactly as they described." The debate raged for hours. Earth was divided. While scientists and many civilians welcomed the Varen with open arms, military and security forces around the world grew increasingly concerned. Meanwhile, at the Geneva First Contact Center, Toril had requested a private meeting with Commander Ellis and the heads of Earth's major powers. The mood was tense as the Varen leader's tall form entered the room. "I sense your world is divided about our presence," Toril began, the translator conveying his musical speech into clear English. "This is understandable, but there is something we have not fully explained that you need to know." The room grew still. Toril projected a holographic star map into the center of the room. "We were not merely exploring when we encountered the void current," he continued. "We were fleeing." The hologram highlighted a region of space. "This is the territory of the Krev, a predatory species that conquers and strips worlds of resources." The leaders exchanged worried glances as Toril continued. "Our home system was attacked 20 years before we launched this fleet. These ships contain not just explorers, but refugees, nearly a third of our entire species. We sought to establish a new colony far from Krev space." The American president leaned forward. "Are you saying these Krev might follow you here?" "It is unlikely they could track us after the void current encounter," Toril replied. "But if they expand in this direction and discover your world—" He left the sentence unfinished. General Barnes of Earth's United Defense Force stood up. "You've been holding back military technology, haven't you? While sharing medicine and energy systems, you've told us nothing of your weapons or defenses." Toril's violet eyes blinked slowly. "Yes, our ethical protocols forbid sharing weapons technology with newly encountered species. But given the circumstances, our council has been debating this restriction." The meeting lasted well into the night. When it ended, Earth's leaders were faced with a difficult choice: continue helping the Varen and potentially draw the attention of a hostile species, or withdraw support and lose access to life-changing technologies. 3 days later, the United Space Coalition convened for a vote. Representatives from every nation cast their ballots while the world watched. The final tally appeared on screens around the globe. 143 votes to continue assistance, 59 against. The decision made, humans redoubled their efforts. With the truth now public, military personnel joined the science teams. If the Krev were real, Earth would need every advantage the Varen could provide. In a gesture of newfound trust, Toril authorized the awakening of all remaining Varen in stasis. Thousands of the 4-armed aliens emerged from their long sleep to find themselves saved by a species they hadn't known existed when their journey began. As the last stasis pod opened, Porter approached Commander Ellis on the observation deck. "Sir, with all the Varen awake, our power systems are being strained to the limit. We need to accelerate our timeline." Ellis nodded, watching as humans helped disoriented Varen from their pods. "The vote bought us time, but the security concerns aren't going away. How soon can we get their fleet self-sufficient?" Porter's face was grim. "Without a breakthrough in synthesizing their exotic matter. Years, not months." "Then we need that breakthrough," Ellis said firmly. "Because I've seen the intel on these Krev. If they're half as dangerous as the Varen believe, we can't afford to wait." The alarm blared through Earth's deep space monitoring station. Lieutenant Diaz jolted awake at her console, quickly scanning the readings that had triggered the alert. "Director Harris, She called out. Unknown signals detected at the edge of the system. Pattern doesn't match anything in our database. Harris was beside her in seconds, his face tightening as he studied the data. How many? 3 distinct signatures, moving fast. Their trajectory suggests they're heading directly toward us. Within an hour, an emergency meeting convened aboard the orbital command station. Commander Ellis faced the grim expressions of military leaders and Varan representatives. The signals were detected crossing the heliopause, Ellis explained, pointing to the display. Based on their speed, we have approximately 2 weeks before they reach Earth's orbit. Admiral Tren, the Varan military commander, studied the signal patterns with his 4 hands moving rapidly across the controls. The energy signature is similar to Krev scout vessels, but I cannot be certain without more data. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. If these were Krev ships, humanity's first contact with a second alien species would likely be hostile. We need to accelerate our timetable, Ellis announced. Admiral Tren, how quickly can we get your defensive systems operational? The tall Varan's iridescent skin pulsed with what humans had learned was anxiety. Our primary defense grid requires full power cores. Without the exotic matter, we cannot activate our shield technology or long-range weapons. Then we use what we have, General Rivera of Earth's United Defense Force stated firmly. We've adapted our fusion reactors to power your ships. We should focus on powering up your most essential defensive systems. The next days passed in a blur of frantic activity. Human and Varan engineers worked around the clock, redirecting power from Earth's orbital platforms to the alien vessels. Military ships from every major nation moved into defensive positions. Porter hadn't slept in 3 days. His eyes burned as he recalibrated power flows to the Varan mothership's sensor array. You must rest, urged Mev, his Varan counterpart. Your biology requires sleep cycles. Porter shook his head. No time. If those are Krev ships, we need every system online. Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared for potential conflict. Civilian populations were briefed on emergency protocols, though authorities carefully avoided causing panic. Earth's long-range weapons were primed, though everyone knew they would be vastly outmatched by Krev technology. Admiral Tren shared tactical knowledge about Krev weaknesses and battle strategies. They rely heavily on automated systems, he explained during briefings with Earth's military commanders. Their vessels are fast but vulnerable to concentrated electromagnetic pulses. On the 7th day, with the unknown signals now crossing Jupiter's orbit, Earth made contact. Powerful transmission arrays sent messages in every known format, including the Varan language. No response came. They're still coming, Diaz reported, tracking the signals. No change in course or speed. On the 10th day, with tension at its peak, the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Deep Space Monitoring Station's most sensitive instruments captured new readings from the approaching vessels. Sir, Diaz called to Harris, her voice suddenly lighter. I'm detecting radiation patterns consistent with cosmic dust clouds. These aren't ships, they're natural phenomena. Scientists quickly confirmed her analysis. What they had detected were unusual energy formations, possibly similar to the void current that had disabled the Varan fleet, but smaller and less powerful. When the news spread, relief flooded through human and Varan alike. Yet the false alarm had served a purpose. In their rush to prepare defenses, the joint teams had made remarkable progress. We've achieved 50% power on 5 major Varan vessels, Porter reported at the debriefing. And we've successfully integrated Earth's early warning systems with Varan sensors, giving us detection capabilities 10 times beyond our previous range. Commander Ellis nodded, studying the progress reports. Good work, but let's not lose momentum. The threat wasn't real this time, but the Krev are still out there. Admiral Tren approached Ellis after the meeting, placing a 4-fingered hand on the human's shoulder in what had become a gesture of friendship between their species. My people have a saying, the Varan said softly. The strongest bonds are forged in the heat of shared danger. He looked around at the humans and Varen working seamlessly together. Even if the danger was just a shadow, it has united us in ways I never thought possible. Ellis nodded. Now we just need to make sure we're ready when real danger comes. The laboratory deep beneath Geneva hummed with activity. Dr. Jiang hadn't left the facility in weeks, her dedication to solving the exotic matter problem becoming almost legendary among the joint human-Varen science team. "The simulation is ready," she announced, her tired eyes fixed on the holographic display. The 3D model showed subatomic particles dancing in complex patterns, occasionally flickering as they crossed dimensional boundaries. Mev and 3 other Varen scientists gathered around the display, their slender forms casting long shadows in the blue light. "You've managed to model the phase transition," Mev observed, wonder in his melodic voice. "No species we've encountered has achieved this without centuries of quantum physics development." Jiang smiled faintly. "Desperation is a powerful motivator. Plus, your guidance on transdimensional theory saved us decades of trial and error." The false alarm with the mysterious signals had created a new sense of urgency. While the immediate threat had passed, both species now understood the vulnerability of their position. The Varen fleet remained mostly powerless, and Earth's defenses would be inadequate against advanced threats. Commander Ellis entered the laboratory, accompanied by Admiral Tren. "Please tell me you have good news," Ellis said, the weeks of stress visible on his face. "We might," Jiang replied, adjusting the simulation parameters. "Watch this." The holographic particles began to spin faster, converging toward a central point. As they reached critical density, they suddenly flashed brightly, stabilizing into a pulsing orb. "That's..." Admiral Tren stepped forward, his large eyes widening. "You've modeled stable exotic matter formation." Jiang nodded. The key was understanding that exotic matter doesn't need to be created. It needs to be coaxed into our dimension. Using a modified version of your stasis field technology and our particle accelerators, we believe we can open a controlled dimensional window. Ellis looked between the scientists. "In plain English, Doctor, we can make the fuel that powers the Varen ships," Jiang said simply. The next 72 hours were critical. Engineers and scientists from both species worked to convert the theoretical model into a working prototype. The large Hadron Collider outside Geneva was repurposed, its massive tunnels now housing both Earth and Varen technology in a unique hybrid. Porter supervised the power systems, ensuring the enormous energy requirements would be met. "If this works," he told his team, "it changes everything, not just for the Varen fleet, but for human technology too." On a cold morning in early spring, the experiment began. Government representatives, military officials, and scientific leaders gathered in the observation room. The tension was palpable as Jiang initiated the startup sequence. "Particle acceleration at nominal levels," reported a technician. "Stasis field generators online." "Beginning dimensional folding sequence," Mev announced, his 4 hands dancing across the alien controls. The massive screens showed the interior of the chamber where the experiment was taking place. For several minutes, nothing visible happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, a small sphere of shimmering light appeared at the center. "It's working," Jiang whispered, her eyes fixed on the readings. "Exotic matter formation confirmed." The sphere grew slowly, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it. When it reached the size of a tennis ball, the system automatically stabilized, containing the exotic matter within a specialized field. The observation room erupted in cheers. Humans embraced one another, while the Varen performed their musical trilling of celebration. Admiral Tren approached Commander Ellis, extending all 4 arms in their formal gesture. "Your people have achieved in months what took my species generations," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "With this breakthrough, we can begin full restoration of our fleet." The implications extended far beyond the immediate crisis. The synthesis of exotic matter opened new frontiers in energy production, space travel, and physics. As the technology was refined over the following weeks, the Varen began sharing previously withheld knowledge, including medical technologies that could extend human lifespan and cure genetic diseases. Earth entered a period of unprecedented technological advancement. Clean energy systems based on Varen designs began replacing fossil fuels. Medical breakthroughs emerged weekly as human and alien scientists collaborated openly. Porter stood beside Zhang on the observation deck of the Varen mothership, watching as the first synthesized power core was installed. The massive vessel's systems came fully online for the first time in 2 centuries, its hull glowing with beautiful patterns of light. "It's just the beginning, isn't it?" Porter said quietly. Zhang nodded. "Yesterday we were alone in the universe. Today we've helped save an alien civilization and gain technology that will transform our world." She smiled. "I wonder what tomorrow will bring." The Varen mothership hovered majestically above Earth, its massive hull gleaming in the sunlight. After 6 months of tireless work, the entire alien fleet had been restored to full power. The day of departure had arrived. On the observation deck of the mothership, humans and Varen gathered for the formal alliance ceremony. The room buzzed with conversation as diplomats, scientists, and military leaders from both species mingled. Large windows provided a breathtaking view of Earth below, a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Commander Ellis straightened his dress uniform as he approached the central platform where Admiral Tren waited. The tall Varen wore ceremonial garments of shimmering material that caught the light like living rainbows. "Hard to believe this day has finally come," Ellis said quietly. Tren's violet eyes regarded the human warmly. "When we entered stasis centuries ago, we had no hope of finding friends among the stars. Now we leave with more than restored ships. We leave with allies." The formal ceremony began with Earth's Secretary General and the Varen High Council representative signing the alliance treaty. The document, written in both human and Varen languages, established mutual defense agreements, technological exchange protocols, and trade routes between Earth and the 7 Varen colony worlds. Today marks humanity's official entry into the galactic community, the Secretary General announced to the billions watching the broadcast across Earth. "No longer are we alone in the universe. We stand now as equals among the stars." Admiral Tren stepped forward, his voice translated for all to hear. "In recognition of Earth's invaluable assistance, the Varen High Council extends a formal invitation for humanity to join the Galactic Cooperative, an alliance of 12 peaceful species dedicated to mutual advancement and protection." A murmur of excitement ran through the crowd. The cooperative had only been mentioned in passing during cultural exchanges, a distant possibility for humanity's future. Now, Earth was being offered immediate membership. Furthermore, Tren continued, "We propose establishing a joint defense fleet, crewed by both humans and Varen, to patrol this sector and provide warning should the Krev expand in this direction." The proposal was accepted with enthusiasm. Already, human pilots had begun training on Varen vessels, their quick reflexes and creative problem-solving making them natural spacefarers. After the formal proceedings, the celebration began. Musicians from both species performed together, creating hauntingly beautiful harmonies never before heard on Earth. Food and drink from both worlds were shared, cultural barriers dissolving in the spirit of friendship. Porter found Zhang near one of the viewports, gazing out at the stars. "Thinking of going with them?" he asked. She smiled. The exchange program was oversubscribed 10 times over. "Everyone wants to visit the Varen worlds." "They approved your application, didn't they?" Zhang nodded, chief scientist on the first human delegation. "I still can't believe it." She turned to him. "What about you? I heard you're joining the Joint Defense Fleet. Someone has to make sure those exotic matter cores keep running properly," Porter replied with a grin. "Besides, I've always wanted to see what's out there." As the celebration continued, Commander Ellis found a quiet moment with Admiral Tren in the ship's garden chamber, a peaceful space filled with plants from both worlds growing side by side. My scientists tell me the void current that disabled your fleet was a natural phenomenon, Ellis said. But what if it wasn't? What if the Krev have developed technology that can drain energy at a distance? Tren's skin rippled with concern. An unsettling thought. All the more reason our species should face the future together. Agreed, Ellis replied. 200 years ago, your people launched these ships hoping to find safety. Instead, you found partners. The departure ceremony began at dawn the next day. As the massive Varan fleet prepared to leave Earth orbit, a formation of 20 new vessels moved into position alongside them. The first ships of the Joint Human-Varan Defense Force, their hulls bearing the insignia of both worlds. From space stations and surface observatories, humanity watched as their new allies and their own pioneering crews departed. The fleet activated their faster-than-light drives, creating a spectacular display of light as they vanished into the depths of space. On the bridge of the lead defense vessel, Porter and a crew of humans and Varan watched Earth recede behind them. Ahead lay the stars, no longer distant and unreachable, but a highway to new worlds and civilizations. Course set for the Varan colony world Nilara, reported the navigation officer. Proceed, ordered the captain. As the ship accelerated into the unknown, humanity took its first true steps into a much larger universe, not alone, but hand in hand with friends from beyond the stars.